Y'all, it is terrifying that I am even in a position where I can make this video, my top 10 tips for first year medical students. Time flies when you're having fun or when you're in medical school. If you guys are new here, welcome back to my channel. My name is Morgan. I am a rising second year at NYU Grossman School of Medicine in New York City, and today we're just gonna dive into my top 10 tips for medical students, for first year medical students specifically, and they're gonna be in no particular order. I just kind of wanted to give you guys like background insight tips based on what I learned in my first year. Alright guys, so my first tip is don't try to do what everyone else is doing / trust yourself. I think this is so hard because you get into medical school and you're like, this is so different from anything that I've ever done before, like what should I do? And then you'll see your classmates are doing something one way and you're like, oh my god, should I be doing something that way? It is just like so important to realize that everyone studies differently. I was someone that personally, I did like using outside resources, and for some units I was an Anki person, but like I know people in my class, people that I studied with, never touched Anki during their first year. So really like it's so hard, but experiment with what works for you instead of trying to do what works for everybody else. And also realize that resource overload is real. So if you like watching lectures and supplementing with like Sketchy and that's working for you, and then you see someone who was doing Anki and Boards and Beyond and Osmo, like if you try to do everything that they're doing, like there's just too many resources. Like I really think that all you need to do is, you have your school's lectures, and then you can supplement if you want, like find a resource that has practice questions like UWorld or AMBOSS, and then find a resource that has video, so Sketchy or Boards and Beyond, or Osmosis. Like you don't need every single thing. Tip number 2, it's like a little bit counterintuitive, but I promise it's not. Let your ego go and learn how to ask for help. It's so weird because I was definitely in a situation where I felt like through high school, undergrad, like I kind of got the hang of things pretty quickly. I'd go to office hours every once in a while to like build relationships with my professors, but like I didn't really need to go to those office hours. And so like I'd never really used a tutor before. And then I got into medical school and I'm like, whew, this is hard. I think it was really difficult for me to be like, hey, I need help. Like we have free tutoring, ask someone. But you have to let your ego get out of the way. I was able to chat with a tutor and it, like I wasn't failing, but I felt like there was just more that I could give and I wasn't learning appropriately or like learning in a way that I was content with. But I reached out to our Dean of Student Affairs and then got set up with a tutor. I was able to chat with them and they like helped me like reframe the way that I was learning and things like that. And so I think that is so helpful. And like if you don't let your ego go, then you're never going to be able to just like step out and ask for help. Talk to your classmates, talk to upperclassmen, like they have been through this before, so they're there to help you. They know how hard it is. They know like the transition, like they know the professors, the coursework, everything like that. So I think it's always helpful just like make those relationships with their upperclassmen and let your ego go and make sure that you just ask for help. Number 3, you have to learn how to say no. This has been my hardest thing. Like you guys know, like I am a yes person. It has been really hard learning how to say no, and I think like I really did learn how to say no when I started running my social media accounts, because like I'll have brand offers and either they're just like not at the rates that I want, or not with a brand that like I support or want to support, but like still when it comes to like doing it like face to face and like with people that I think that's still just like a little bit of an uncomfortable space for me. This summer, I'm working on 2 research projects. I got an offer to work on a 3rd research project, which I really was interested in, but I'm also really interested in the other 2 that I'm doing. And as I like did my first few weeks of summer, I was like, I'm at maximum capacity or over maximum capacity with the 2 research projects that I'm working on and like starting to study for STEP. So I had to just ultimately reach out and be like, hey, like right now, this is not the best opportunity for me, just like I don't have time. However, like when things change, I will be able to, you know, work on this, or maybe I can come back to it, but like right now I just don't have the time. And so I think that was something that has been really hard for me in terms of like organization, leadership roles, you know, like people may always want you to do something and like you're always going to be getting pulled in like multiple different directions. I just realized that's just what life is. But just really just decide like what is important to you, what are your values, what do you want to invest your time in, say yes to those things. And if you're ever at capacity, don't be afraid to pull back. And yeah, I think it's just so important. Number 4, it is okay to have no study days. You have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself time to be a human outside of being a medical student. It was a hard transition to medical school for me because I went to Clemson for undergrad. Like, we are a huge football school. I mean, like every Saturday, wake up, you tailgate, you go to the football game, and then like you celebrate after because like we always won. And so for me, it was very difficult to like come to medical school and be in an environment with people who were like going to campus to study on Saturdays, and then also realizing, you know, like we had exams every other week. So like there were some Saturdays that I needed to dedicate to studying. That's not to say that you have to give up everything. Like, you guys know, if you've been following me for a while on Instagram, like pretty much every Saturday I was with the Clemson Alumni Club based out of New York City and like was watching the football game with other young alumni. But if the game was at like 8 at night, I woke up at 10 in the morning and studied beforehand. So it's definitely all about finding balance, but it's also so important to realize that like you will burn out if you study every single day. Today, I'm recording this on one of my break days from studying for SET because I just realized like it's so important just to have days to you. Maybe that's Sunday if you like need to go to church, want to have a rest day, or even if like you just need like multiple evenings that you take off. So really just like learn to be okay with not studying. It's gonna feel weird like the first time where you're like sitting and you're like, there are things that I could be doing, because there are always things that you could be doing, but it's important to realize that like it's okay to not be doing things, and it's also okay if you like need to take a day off and give yourself grace and come back the next day when you're in a better headspace and when you can, you know, like be more efficient in your studying. Number 5, set boundaries. I cannot stress this enough. Set boundaries with your classmates. Like I have no idea what my roommate has made on any of her exams. I have no idea what my best friends in medical school have made on any of their exams, because guess what? I don't trust myself to not compare myself, because that's something I'm working on. And also, who cares? Medical school, or my medical school, is pass fail. So I think you just have to set boundaries. Like we decided from the very beginning, like, did you pass? Great. I passed. Amazing. Let's move on with our lives. I don't care if it was a 70 pass. I don't care if it was a 100 pass. Like, it doesn't matter. Also, set boundaries with your friends and your family. Like, my mom, like, I've had to do this with her. Like, I cannot sit on the phone for an hour. Like, I have things to do. Cannot just, like, sit in a vibe and talk about any and everything on the phone. Like, I have other things that I need to do. But on the other hand, like, you have to make time for friends and family as well. So like I FaceTime my dad every single day without fail, and that doesn't mean we sit on the phone for an hour and talk. Like, I'm walking to Starbucks, or I'm walking to campus, or I just left the hospital for an OSCE, and I'll just like FaceTime him. Hey, how are you doing today? This is what I was up to. Okay, good. Everybody's great. Let's move on with our lives. Thanks. So it's just, you have to set boundaries, because not people that aren't in medical school aren't going to understand what that looks like for you. But you also have to like make sure that you're making time for them. But boundaries are so important. I think it's really just important to decide like, what do you value? Having, you know, like one day on the weekend off, or at least if not half a day, going to Clemson football games, taking advantage of my breaks to go home, little things like that. So just like decide what those priorities are for you, and just like reevaluate often and make sure you're setting boundaries that allows you to maintain those priorities. Number 6, find a routine. I think that the hardest part of my first year of medical school has been the amount of flexibility that I've had. Our lectures are not required, so like we had exams every 2 weeks, so for every like exam period, maybe we'd have like 3 required things, and then like every week we have like an afternoon required of clinical. that's not a lot. That's like maybe like 8 hours a week of mandatory. So that gives me like a lot of hours that are just you do you and make sure that you're ready for this exam. It was really easy just to be like, sleep in because there's nowhere for me to be, or lollygag and explore New York City, which is like fine at some time, but like at some point I also did have to study. I just like to find little things. So like, I'm gonna go to Starbucks, or I'm gonna go to XYZ coffee shop with my friend from 9 to noon and watch lecture, or I'm gonna wake up, do Anki, and then watch lecture. I just needed to have consistent things in my life just so I can have some resemblance of normalcy. And so the number one thing that was important to me is I make my bed every single day. And you're probably like, okay, like who doesn't do this? Like I never made my bed in under, I've just never made my bed because I'm like, why are you gonna do this? Like you're gonna get back in the bed. In medical school, I have literally made my bed every single day. I don't care if you can see it in all of my like week in the life vlogs on here, and also like on my day in the lives on Instagram. Like I wake up, I make my bed. I don't care if I'm running late. I am going to go in the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face, come out, make my bed, open my windows, get dressed, and go. It seems so small, but I just think that moving from South Carolina to New York City, not knowing anybody, moving to medical school, and like just everything was changing, everything was crazy. I'm just like, I just want to have little things that are consistent to me. Another thing that's consistent to me, like every 2 weeks I have some form of self-care. So once a month I get a massage, once a month I get a pedicure. For you, that might be, FaceTiming your friends every Sunday night, or going to church every Sunday, just different things like that. So I think whatever you can to, have some semblance of normalcy and like a routine that you can stick to no matter like what block you're in medical school, no matter what else is happening outside of life. I think it just helps keep you sane. Moving right along. Number 7, stay true to yourself. One thing that I love is like, I just feel like I got so lucky with my medical school classmates. Like they're simply amazing. I adore them, and I just feel like I can rely on like all of them. I don't know, like maybe you might end up at a school that has an amazing class vibe like this. Maybe you end up at a school that has a different class vibe. Maybe you go to a school where like everyone likes to go out and you're someone that likes to stay in, or maybe it's the opposite. And so I think that it's just really important to make sure that you're staying true to yourself. Like I said before, like so many things are changing in medical school. Like you don't also have to change your values and change what's important to you. And so like at the beginning of medical school, I was like going out like a decent amount, probably more than I did in undergrad, just because I feel like a lot of my friends, a lot of my classmates are going out, and I was like, oh, I don't want to miss out on, hanging out with people and things like that. And then I realized like I don't like to be awake until 2 a.m. out at a bar. Like that's just, I like my sleep, and that's just not really like where I'm at every weekend. Every once in a while, of course. Every weekend is just like not an option for me. I think you just have to realize like you're gonna find your people that are interested in doing what you want to do. So just don't feel like you have to like change and like use all of your energy and do all of that if that's not going to, regenerate you. Just do what makes you happy, and yeah. Number 8, this is one that I'm still like so struggling with, but budget. Medical school is expensive. I like cannot talk super in depth about this because I'm very, very lucky and very blessed that I am on a full scholarship to medical school, and I did not take out loans for undergrad because I was also on a full scholarship to undergrad, so we'll be graduating debt-free, yay. But even with that, like the amount, like my refund check that I get to live off of for a semester is like not a lot at all, especially considering that I live in New York City. It has been very difficult. I think especially if you move somewhere new for medical school, especially a city like New York, like everybody's like, oh my god, we live in New York, like let's do this, we have to go try dinner at this place, we need blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my god, my budget sucks. My bank account is low. Before you start medical school, make a budget. Like for me, my way of budgeting is like I want my bank account number to be this number, and once it gets close to that number, like, we just shut off our spending until more money comes in. But for you, that might be like, I have $60 a week for groceries and $50 for going out, things like that. So I think just like really decide, and also consider like if your parents are going to be helping you, if you're going to have any side hustles, all that good jazz, like what money looks like for you. And I think that there's so many fun things that you can do. Like, we do movie nights, and also like the AMC theaters near us will do $5 movie nights, so that's the only day that I go to the movie theater. Also, like, go to the park and everybody bring an item. So someone bring fruit, someone bring like chips, and do a picnic. So there's a lot of like free things that you can do as well. And then of course, like, there's always an opportunity if you have a side hustle. I will not say work, because like I personally don't know of anyone that has like full-blown real job in medical school. I used to hear that like some medical schools make you sign a form saying you won't work. I did not have to sign a form, but also like there's no way I would be able to work a job and do medical school. Like, medical school in and of itself is like more than a full-time job. Depending on your school, during preclinical you will have flexibility. So you know, like, I know people that will walk dogs or babysit and different things like that on the weekend. So that's definitely an option if you just want flexible side hustles. But working a job is like pretty impossible, I would say. So just really like be aware of your finances. Number nine, I know I said in no particular order, but this is probably like one of the most important, if not the most important. Mental health is number one. It is absolutely top priority, you know, like below God, because thank you Jesus, I need God in my life. But also like mental health is so important. And I think that medical school, that first year, well, all the medical school journey, but like I can only speak for my first year, like it has been an experience. Moving away from home, starting medical school, losing the like routine that I was used to, and then also like having to deal with like asking for help and not doing well on exams like I normally did, and wonder if I'm cut out for this, and you know, all that good jazz. I think that it's difficult. Like, if you've never dealt with like mental health before, it might come up. If you've dealt with it before, it might be exacerbated. I knew that I wanted to like work on my mental health when I got into medical school. So I was already on medication, so I just got transferred to a psychiatrist here that I was seeing, but I feel like I wasn't really doing like psychotherapy or anything like that. And I was like, I had said that I needed therapy. Well, everybody should go to therapy. I knew I needed therapy for like years, and I just like kept putting it off. I was like, if it's not one excuse, it's another. And I basically went like the whole first 6 months of medical school without therapy, and then I had something happen, and I was like, that threw me into therapy. And now I've gone to therapy consistently, like bi-weekly, for 9 months now. And can I just say, it's a game changer. Like, just having my therapist who I can chat with, we are working on anxiety, depression, like all the things that I deal with. As soon as you get to medical school, make sure to check out what resources your school has in terms of like how many therapy appointments you can get. Do they have psychiatrists? What are like the emergency or weekend hotlines? And please, like, don't be afraid to reach out, whether that is like you need a leave of absence, you need to push back an exam, like please just see what the resources are that are available and make sure that you're aware of those, because if anything happens, you just want to make sure that you're taken care of. And also, this kind of like ties in with everything else, but like prioritize your mental health depending on what's important to you. So stick to that routine, call your family, stay connected with friends, build a community, like just to make sure that you're doing what you need to do, because medical school is always going to be here. It's a demanding field, and I'm only in my first year of medical school. I can't even like imagine residency, but like it's demanding. It's just hard. Yeah, it's hard, and there are going to be times where you literally question everything. So just make sure that you have the support that you need, and that you always prioritize yourself, because you are the most important person. So my last tip, number 10, embrace the journey. medical school is going to be a roller coaster. There are going to be amazing days, there are going to be awful days, there are going to be like so days, and you are probably like, okay, on the hard days, I'm like, you just got to get through this and then you're going to get to residency. And I, you know, like I hear about this and I see about this a lot, you know, like in high school, that was the same thing. Like, I just need to get into undergrad. And then undergrad, it was like, I just need to get into medical school. And the one thing I realized is there will always be a next step. There will always be something to achieve. But if you're always focusing on, and listen, like I am speaking to myself when I say this to you guys, because I am someone that is so future oriented and it's hard for me to just live in the moment. But please, like embrace the journey, live in the moment. Like, yes, residency will happen at some point, but like trust your school that they're gonna get you, like make you a strong applicant for residency. If you worked so hard for this, like look at the acceptance rate for medical school. Like, you're here, you did it, you need to celebrate that, you just need to embrace that. And just like, there are just be moments like when I had my first patient encounter in the hospital, and my first patient encounter was with, you know, a patient that looked like me. And that's one of the driving reasons why I went into medicine, because we know that there are, you know, health disparities. When I was studying for the MCAT, you know, and I was like worried about if I was going to pass biochemistry, you know, when I was like filling out and shelling out all that money to apply to medical school and wondering when I was going to get in and how I was going to afford it. And now I'm living in the exact moment that I dreamed about and I prayed about for so long. So while it's so easy to just like focus on the next step, and at some point you will have to think about that, like just take advantage of the moments and realize like you get to learn to be a physician, like you get to train at your medical school, which you've been dreaming about forever. So yeah, sorry, those last two were like super sappy, but y'all know me, I'm like an emotional girl anyways. Those are my top 10 tips for first year medical students based on what I learned throughout my first year of medical school. There are so many other tips and advice that I could give. Make sure you check out my Instagram because I'm always sharing things. But I think that those are like top 10 tips, again, in no particular order. So make sure that you keep those in mind as you go throughout your first year of medical school. Make sure to drop a comment below. Let me know where you're at, if you're just starting medical school or if you're in residency, wherever you're at in your journey, still in undergrad, high school, wherever. Let me know so we can connect there, and make sure to subscribe so that way you can stay up to date when I drop new videos. Thank you guys.